Okay, so the one other person I was expecting was Christabel. The first thing I did when I was trying to think about materials for you guys is I went back into the CQ Researcher to see what kinds of things were in there. So I'm going to so for example, all right, I am sharing the screen. Can you see the screen on your computers? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can see CQ Researcher?
Yes.
Okay. So, Jalen, you're writing about vaccines and whether students should, or schools, whether states should require all children to be vaccinated. And in fact, well, they do. And what kinds of exemptions? Have you narrowed to your question? Jalen?
Not really.
Okay, all right. Well, so I started with that, and I just wanted to check to make sure, see what was in CQ Researcher. And one of the things in there were these, and all of the CQ Researcher ones have these great maps and graphs. And they have this chart on there about states that allow vaccination exemptions. And I had no idea, actually, that there was such a thing as religious exemptions and philosophical exemptions. I was really interested in that. So I saw this chart and I see what Arkansas is. The chart's from 2016, so it struck me as I wonder how much it's been updated. So this is not a hot link, but I just Googled the name of this. And got into this National Conference of State Legislatures site, which actually this is the kind of thing that would be helpful for you as well, Jason, since, well, you're sort of interested in something that has different state laws about. And National Conference of State Legislatures is this organization that it is more or less an information organization to try to help all these 50 state legislatures in doing their work. Partly what it does is collect research to see what different states are doing on their various topics. So school vaccinations is just one of thousands of topics that they look at. But, so it happens to be there. And so you see here, it was updated in January 2019. So this is an example of how you can use CQ Researcher to find good, decent stuff. And so they have an updated map, and the other one was January 2016. This is 2018. And you see that Arkansas is personal belief exemption. And this little page tells you about all the different states and things that happened in the last few years. This is something that there's a lot of changing legislation on. So it needs to be updated all the time. And then you can go to the Arkansas, and then they have the actual law for each of the states. And so you can actually do the law, click on here. And it said there that Arkansas has a religious exemption and a philosophical exemption. And so you can actually go in and actually know what the Arkansas law is, and some, you know, your final project might be, you know, locally oriented towards saying maybe we shouldn't have any religious and philosophical exemptions. Let's see. Then that's fine. That's back to that. So that was just an example of what you might get from there. Another really important source in all of the reports is under the bibliography, and especially they usually have reports and studies. So these reports and the studies are by various organizations, and in many cases they're quite credible. So a lot of these happen to be governmental ones, nationwide studies. And you click on their thing, and here is a whole report that was done in 2014 about, you know, what's done in each state and what the current status is, which might be an extremely useful for you to know what's going on. So if I were going to write this paper, I think I would be interested in this whole issue of exemptions and whether or not there should be exemptions. And I have a feeling I'd probably, well, I guess what I'd want to do is, you know, what is this about these philosophical and religious exemptions? You know, what is it that they get, and is it a good idea to have them? So with that in mind, I would go to the academic database. Now, on the website, I have some instructions of walking people through a database search, one in an EBSCO search and one in a ProQuest. And so I'm going to do that with Jalen's, and the same thing would apply for yours, Dan and Jason, as well. So you all know how to get to the list of databases at the library, right? It's the same place as you would have gone for the CQ researcher assignment and then that academic search complete assignment. So you click on the database, And I asked you for the exercise in the Check-in Tuesday discussion to start with Academic Search Complete, because it's just a very good all-purpose one. It is also an EBSCO database, so it allows you to access other ones. So the first thing I'm trying to do here is figure out which database. So I selected Academic Search Complete, but because this is an EBSCO database, and the same thing happens with ProQuest, and we'll look at that in a sec. This is, EBSCO is this gigantic company that has bought up all these original companies that had all these indexes and databases back in the dark ages when it was just print. And you can see there's a whole lot of different topics that they have databases on. Architecture, history, dissertations, business source elite. CNOL is not real informative by name, but it happens to be nursing. So I'm going to add nursing, or the CNOL. And we're interested in vaccinations for school going, so I'm going to collect the education ones. And there's a health source and Medline. So let's just say we'll do that. So did you all find Academic Search Complete fine for the exercise today or this week?
Yes, absolutely. I found a whole bunch of sources immediately.
Dan, did you get into Academic Search Complete?
Yes, I wasn't sure on my topic yet though, because I was thinking about doing. I was thinking about whether the Constitution guarantees you the right to privacy or not.
Okay, so but go into Academic Search Complete and look up a word or two just so that you know how to use it.
Okay.
So with EBSCO databases, they all look the same. And the key thing that everybody was saying on the Check-in Tuesday discussion that they realized is that searching in an academic database is a little different from searching through Google, where in Google, you kind of just put like a sentence or something and things pop up. With databases, you really need to have a sense of what your keywords are and combine them in multiple boxes to kind of help you limit it. So this is about vaccinations and school and exemption. Over here is this thing called select a field. What that means is that the default is all text. First one, all text. But you can also change it to author, title, subject term, source, the abstract, which is the summary, and these are the numbers that the codes that they've coded something as. So you could every published text in the universe has these ISSN numbers, and so you could actually put that in and just get it directly. I find that when I'm starting, it's best to just leave all these fields open, and because I don't want to narrow things too much. I want as broad a possibility of first. So I end up getting 533 sources that have these words somewhere in it. The default structure here is relevance. So what that means is comes in the order of relevance. Now, relevance in a database is a little different than relevance in, basic Google searches. Part of Google searches, their algorithm includes popularity and how often people ask that question. It's a complex thing. It's not just how important that word is. With academic databases, it's how important the word is, but they also determine it in different ways, so that if a word is in these different fields, it will become more relevant. So the most relevant ones actually come up with these words in our title. That doesn't necessarily mean the others are not, but it does suggest that those are relevant. And if you look at them, you can see that there's a variety of things that are in there. And depending on what you want to talk about, these might be relevant. It looks, since so many things having to do with California come up, that this whole issue is really hot in California, which is not surprising since there's been a lot of outbreaks of diseases in California. So, but I want to, and if I were to change this from relevance to chronological, game dynamic model of optimal budget allocation under individual vaccination choice. So, yeah, some of these might be relevant depending on what you end up deciding to do, but you can see the difference between relevance and chronology. You can also organize it by source, so you could have multiple things from the same source. But we're going to narrow. So these sources came from 1900 to 2019. Well, I don't know, probably not that important to think about in the early 20th century. In fact, I'm going to take this bar. Now, if I were interested in a historical view, that might be good. But I'm going to, my computer's acting cool. So I'm going to roughly, was that somebody from Joyce's class? I'm going to roughly narrow it to the last 15 years, which gets it about half. Then I'm going to narrow it to scholarly. And that gets it another half as well. And the article, the little videos suggest that you narrow it to full text. I really don't recommend doing that because it's really easy to get full text through interlibrary loan. So if you narrow it to what's full text through ULR, then you're likely to miss something because ULR's contract may be more limited on some publications, especially the more recent ones. So maybe I would decide that what's interesting is just what has happened in other states with exemptions. And so I decide this article looks like it might be interesting. And when you get an entry, you should spend a little time just being aware of what's available. So an abstract of an article is a summary. And usually if something is published in an academic journal, they're going to provide an abstract. If they don't provide an abstract, one of these EBSCO databases will make their own abstract. But almost always these abstracts have been provided by the journal, by the original author, so that they're saying what's the most important thing to them. One of the things to notice is that there are subjects listed, major subjects and minor subjects. If you can find the best subject terms for your topic, that is a great thing to do, and you can do that by finding an article that's really relevant for you and then using that article's subject terms as a search term. So so one of the subject terms, obviously, for this one is immunization. Now, immunization by itself is obviously too big for a topic. But you can use it to narrow. Now, when I clicked on that, it said immunizational, which means that it's a major subject term of some kind. It's as if you had used subject term here. And then we could narrow it to, in schools. And we want that, let's say we want it in the abstract, and we can narrow it to then add exemption. Say again, we want that in the abstract. So when we narrow something to the abstract instead of for text, it's making sure that that's a key topic. And that gives us 67 items here that are focusing on that. Since this was a new search, it changed my dates. So I could change this to narrow to more recent. And then I could limit to scholarly peer reviewed. And I could end up with 42, and that's a reasonable number to kind of wander through until I find one or two sources that would be really good. So okay, so this was back to my original A Tale of Two States. It tells you, back to the other things that are in that, one of the things that's hot linked is the name of the journal. I could click on it, Health Affairs, probably going to be important. And when you click on the journal title, then it's kind of like in a library. So like you'd see all the issues and volumes on the library shelf, and you could browse through it. Now you could browse through it, or you could search within the population, within this publication, and you could find all the things that have to do with and maybe I just want anything that has to do with vaccination and the title. Which gives me 10 things, including this one right here. One last thing is to get the text. So in this case, it says get full text over here. Sometimes there'll be a PDF right there. This is sort of sending us to another place. Actually, it's sending us to ProQuest, which is another database, and which is good because now we can see so this is what an entry to ProQuest looks like. It looks a little bit different, but it basically covers the same things. You click on the title of it. You could click on the volume. You could see all the other articles that are in there. You can save it as a PDF for yourself. In ProQuest, they often give you a full text version that's in HTML, so it's computer text rather than a PDF photo of the original, or you can save it as a PDF, and that will give you and that gives you the actual how it looks in a actually this is a PDF of the HTML, and then you could save it to your computer for later. You can email a link to yourself. You can email searches, cover pages, citations. You can click on Cite, and it will give you the actual citation. For this class, I'm telling you that you can use APA or MLA, or I've added Chicago because some students like to have used Chicago. To pick which one you're going to use, basically do whatever tends to be asked for in your major courses. And if they don't really ask, I guess whichever one you're more comfortable with. So this is APA, but you can also get the Chicago versions or MLA. Now you have to click on this change and so this shows you how to do cite it in MLA. And you can also save it, and there's a whole bunch of options. In a ProQuest database, there's something called Save to My Research, which is basically you create your own account. I'm having a little trouble with my ProQuest account. I created an account some earlier lifetime, and now I can't seem to access it, but I also can't open up a new one. So right now I can't do that. But those are all the things that you can do. Additionally, with ProQuest, they give you what they think might be related articles to it. And sometimes it'll have a thing that says that it's been cited by a different source. Jalen, do you have any questions about what I've done here?
No.
Yeah. Do you have a sense, are you moving towards a focus on your paper?
I think so. I think I want to like focus on Arkansas.
Okay. So an interesting question. So back to the EBSCO, there's something called search history. So all the searches that I've done in this session are still here. So let's just go back to one of my first ones. Let's go back to this one. Accidents in school. How do I'll view results. So I don't know if there's going to be any academic articles that cover Arkansas. That doesn't mean you can't do something about Arkansas, and that you can use the national data information or other states' information that you get in talking about Arkansas. But let's just try, we had another line. And it has to be in, well, let's just leave it anywhere. Oh, well, that's interesting. Religion's hepatitis B shot. The Arkansas General Assembly established an overly broad religious exemption to mandatory immunization after the district court invalidated the original religious exemption, McCarthy versus Ozark School District. Now, this might be kind of a tough article to read. It's a little old, but because it's from a law review, those tend to be exceedingly long. But this one, public health and the politics of school immunization requirements. That might be a really, American Journal of Public Health. And we review recent events regarding mandatory immunization in Arkansas. So this actually focuses on Arkansas. So that could be interesting. And this one, impact addition of philosophical exemptions on childhood immunization rates. So it looks to me like in Arkansas, the laws were dealt with back in the something. So that's why that's when this happened. So that's probably the point at which our laws were created. And so that might be a really interesting thing to look into. And depending on what direction you want to go, you can do that. One last thing with EBSCO databases, they have a thing called a folder. You can add things to the folder. It says nothing there, but then you can create your own folder. And that way things are always there. Let's see if I can remember my sign-in information. Never mind. Well, I guess I'm having troubles with that one as well. All right, so Jason and Daniel, basically the same process would apply for your topics. So Jason, you're interested in the marijuana issue, another very hot topic in Arkansas. I was so surprised when those laws passed. That law passed a couple years ago to legalize medical marijuana. Were you?
Yes, the person who heads my department at UAMS is the former Surgeon General for Arkansas.
Who's that?
He was quite surprised as well.
Oh, was he?
Joe Thompson.
I'm sorry, who?
Joe Thompson.
Oh yeah, of course. So all of these CQR reports have these great maps and graphs, and one of the reasons why it's so helpful is that it includes these graphs, so now you know
that's a really good article right there. That's the one that I based a lot of the stuff off of that I started gathering.
Which article are you referring to? The
one that you're looking at right there.
The article or the chart?
The article. I mean, the
Okay.
chart's pretty good. I mean, that's obvious, but yeah, the article's pretty good.
Well, so same thing. I did the same thing with this chart that I did with the one that Jalen had. I thought, well, this is from 2016 or something. When does it? Well, I don't know. It doesn't actually say the date, but the report itself was a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. So it's almost 2 years old at least. So I thought I'd go and look at what the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, which is this normal organization, if they've whoops, wrong one. So this is probably the biggest advocacy group that's out there on legalizing marijuana. They have a lot of things. What did they call that chart? Medical marijuana. He looks happy.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did.
And so here they have their chart. And I'm presuming that it's been updated since 2017. And just like that other one about vaccination, they have all the laws right here so that you can look at them. And you can click and see. So it's not yet operational. Last signed 2016. Yes, we know this. It's remarkable how long it's taking to get there. But here they provided a summary of it, as well as, I hope, a link to the actual law, probably right there. Then I also was wondering if they had anything. I looked at these topics here. They're mostly focused on the different state laws, which of course these laws are functioning at the state level. But there's this intersection between the state and the federal that is affecting everybody. here, by the way, it's a state info. And so it gives you, again, a different map, but there. But so, Jason, are you still interested in talking about the delay in the reclassifying?
Yeah, that seems to be the best focus of everything that I've looked at so far.
Okay.
Probably the least broad.
So I was just curious if Normal has talked about this at all.
Oh, significantly, yeah. I
And
found that marijuana and schedule or reschedule is a good search combination.
did you try reclassifying?
Yeah.
So this is an advocacy group, and one of the things they do is they try to inform people of ways in which they can become part of the process. So, of course, whenever there is any change in a regulation, like food and drug regulations, there is something called a comment period. And so one of the things I noticed that they do is they let people know that the government is requesting public comment. And so that's one of the things they do there. And then as FDA approves things, they provide information. And this was what was interesting to me because this is the most recent little thing. Normal submits public comment to FDA regarding the international scheduling of marijuana, rescheduling. So it turns out that the FDA is active right now on a rescheduling investigation. And so Normal sent a letter about saying it should be rescheduled. So then let's go back to our searches. So the other one we did was was EBSCO, so I thought we could look at ProQuest for this. ProQuest is the other big company in this area. And ProQuest, the way they do theirs is a little bit different. But I clicked on ProQuest Central, and then up here I clicked on Change Databases so we can see what databases ProQuest has. And you'll see here agricultural, ebook, e-library, entrepreneurship, ERIC, which is an education one, ethnic news watch, library and information science, literature online, medical, Medline. And then ProQuest Central is their big, massive one that has a whole bunch of sub ones. So ProQuest Central is what I started with, so that's why they're all clicked. And that has ABI Inform, that's a business one, accounting, technologies, agriculture, arts and humanities, Asian, Australian, biological, business, Canadian. So it's pretty huge. Criminal justice. And then finally STEM. So when we're working at just at the beginning preliminary level, I often